Welcome back. We are now working on multiplying and dividing rational expressions. So when we multiply fractions and divide fractions, remember we either multiply straight across, and then for division, we multiply by reciprocal. And then you're just multiplying straight across. So remember, this is not the same as cross multiplying. So just multiply by reciprocal. Okay? All right, and then when dealing with rational expressions, it might be helpful to factor each of them first. So factoring those same steps as our last video. So GCF first, difference of squares, regular factoring, and then factoring with a value. Okay, so here's what you do. This is a division problem. It has division right in the middle. So always look at what the sign is at the beginning of your question to know which one you're doing first. All right, then we do the reciprocal. So remember, we switch places, top to bottom, on the second one only. And then we factor. So it factors to x plus 2, x minus 5, all over x plus 4. And then the second fraction is x minus 3, x plus 1, x minus 5, and x plus 1. All right, then when we multiply, when we have it in factored form, you can just go ahead and cancel right away. So what's on top, what's on bottom, you cancel. And then we multiply what's left. So x plus 2 times x minus 3, and then x plus 4 times 1 on the bottom. So for your assignment, you're not doing any of the domain restrictions, but always just keep those in the back of your mind, because when we get to solving, we could have answers that cancel out. So just be aware of your domain restrictions when you're doing your rational expressions. But on this assignment, you don't have to enter them into your answers. So for this one, our restrictions would have been x minus 5, x plus 1, and x plus 4. Those would have been our domain restrictions. So x could not equal -1, 5, and -4. But you don't have to do that on your assignment. So I'm not going to be doing it with each of one, but just remember those are there when we do our graphing or when we do our solving. Just remember those are always there. All right, multiply. So we want to get rid of stuff on the top and the bottom. So if you want, you can multiply your stuff together first, if you'd like. So 3 times 8, so we get 24. X squared times x to the third is x to the 5th, because remember we add our exponents. Oh, that's 3. And then y z all over 2 times 15, which is 30, z squared y to the third. All right, you could have also taken out the 2 here, and that would have been a 4, 3 here, and that would have been a 5. Because you notice we can take out a 6 on each 24 and 30. So that leaves a 4 and 5 left over. All right, we don't have any x's on the bottom, so we're going to leave our x to the 5th here. But we do have y's on top and the bottom. So we have y, 1 minus 3, and then z, 1 minus 2. So we still have our 4 and our 5, and then our x to the fifth. 1 minus 3, that's a -2, and z to the -1. So remember, when they're negative, we put them back in the bottom of the fraction. So we're just going to move those back down. So y squared, z to the first, or just z. All right, the next one, we have division. So remember, rewrite it first. yz squared, zxy to the third. So that's the first one. The second one, we want now the bottom on top. So 7x6y2z6 over 15xy3z8. Now remember, when we did multiplying, we can cross stuff off at the beginning. So 7's, and then a 3 can come out of the 15, and we're left with 5. When you're dealing with your x's and your y's, I would suggest not crossing off stuff at the beginning unless you're very good at your simplifying. Otherwise, you might miss some. And you think, oh, I already crossed that off over here. But then you cross it off on the second one as well. So on this one, so we have the 5 left over on the bottom. We have x6, so that's x12. y1, y2, that's y3. Because 1 plus 2 is 3. z2, z6, that's z8. Okay, on the bottom, x squared, y3, y6, and then z to the 8th. So now we can cancel those z to the 8ths right away. But then we have x to the 12 minus 2 and y to the 3 minus 6. So x to the 10, y to the -3 over 5, which leaves us x to the 10 over 5, y to the third. So looking at this, or you could have done the z, left the z, so z 8 minus 8. Just so you know to cancel that. But, all right, we need to see for factoring. So x plus 1, x plus 4, that's already factored. We don't have any GCFs in those two, so those are good. Looking at the second set, the top part. So, looking for GCFs, they have an x in common. So x plus 4. And then x plus 2, we don't have any GCFs and we can't factor that any farther. All right, looking at the whole equation, can't factor anymore. Looking at simplifying. When it's in factored form, it's a little bit easier to simplify because we're not dealing with so many exponents. So these cancel. And then we don't have anything else that's in common on the top and the bottom. So we have x plus 1 times x over x plus 2. Now typically when it's a single x, you write it first. It's like that standard form. You can remultiply it out, but you don't need to if you want to do it that way. But I would just plan on leaving them in factored form. And that's it for your simplifying. All right, next one. So factoring. So the top is that perfect square. So A is going to be x, B is going to be 2, So we have x plus 2, x minus 2. All right, on the bottom, we look for GCFs. So 2 is a GCF. So we'd have x plus 1 left over. All right, looking at our second 2, looking for GCFs. There's none in common for all 3 on top and bottom. So then we're going to factor, so we know we're going to have 2 sets left over. So the top, so -3, add and subtract to equal -2. So this one is a -3, positive 1. So x plus 1, x minus 3. So remember, you can do your box if you want to. Remember x squared. And then that gives you your x minus 3, x plus 1. So if I happen to skip the box, know that I'm getting it from the chart. And you just match the signs. All right, then the bottom. So factors of 4 that add or subtract to equal 4. So you have 1 and 4, 2 and 2. So 1 plus 4 is 5, 2 plus 2 is 4. So it'd be that second one. So same thing, you can do your box. So x plus 2, x plus 2. So they're the same. All right, then we look for the stuff that's same on top, same on bottom. So x plus 2, x plus 2. X minus 2, nope, we don't have a matching one, so that's going to be part of our top. Then we move to the next, x plus 1. Oh, there is one on the bottom, so that gets canceled. Is there an x minus 3 on the bottom? No. All right, there's not a single 2 on the top, so we leave it. And then we don't have an x plus 2 on the top, a second one. So that x plus 2 will stay. So you have to have 2 of those in order to cancel out both of them. All right, so just be careful. Remember, we can't cancel out x's or 2's because they have that plus or minus. They're trapped in that factored form. So just be careful when you're simplifying that you can't cancel those out. All right, next one, remember division, we write it first. So 12x minus 20, x squared is 4x minus 21. Oh, that is weird x. All right, times. This is going to be on top. Over x squared minus 25. All right, factor. Remember, we can't cancel those x squareds. We have to factor first. So looking for GCFs, the only one that has a GCF is this top one. So we can factor out a 4. So 4. Then we'll have 3x minus 5 left over. All right, then the bottom. So factors of 21. We want to add or subtract to equal -4. So 1 and 21, 3 and 7. Big numbers will be negative. So it's going to be x plus 3, x minus 7. All right, the top of this one, we want factors of -24 that add or subtract to equal -5. So 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 6 and 4. So it's a negative as well. So the big numbers will be negative. And it's going to be that x plus 3, x minus 8. All right, and the bottom one, square root. A is going to be x, b is going to be 5, so x plus 5, x minus 5. All right, then we start canceling and looking over our factors. The only one that cancels is that x plus 3. So our answer is going to be quite large. X minus 8 all over x minus 7, x plus 5, x minus 5. So we can't cancel out the minus 5 because it's trapped with the 3x and the x. If that 3 wasn't there, then yes, we could cancel it. But since it has that 3, we have to leave it. All right, and our last problem. So we have that division at the end. So I'm just going to write it over here as 10x squared plus 40x over x squared minus 4x minus 21. Just so I don't have to write all of that out again. All right, now we factor. We look for GCFs first. So looking at all of our equations, we have a GCF here and here. So we have a 5 in common here. And then on that third one, we have a 10 and an x in common. So 10x. And then we'll have plus 4 left over. All right, looking at factoring. Oh, that was supposed to be a highlight. So this first one, so factors of 6 to add to 5. So 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Since it's a positive, it's going to be the 2 and the 3. So x plus 2, x plus 3. All right, moving on to our next set. So 7 to make negative 8. So we have 1 and 7. It's a negative, positive. So negative negatives on those. So x minus 1, x minus 7. Okay, then the bottom there, so negative 12 to make negative 4. So 1 and 12, 3 and 4. It's a negative negative, so the big numbers will be negative. And it looks like it will be 2 and negative 6. And then our last one, so negative 21, add or subtract to equal negative 4. So 1 and 21, 3 and 7. It's that negative negative again, so big numbers negative. So x plus 3, x minus 7. That one was a lot. I'm going to move my factor trees over so I have room to write my answer. So I'm just going to move those over here. Actually, I'm going to move them up there. Okay, so now looking at all of our factors, we want to find the ones on top and bottom. So starting x plus 2, we look here, and we have an x plus 2. X plus 3, we have 1 on the bottom. X minus 1, x minus 7, we have 1. And then a 10, we don't have a 10 on the bottom, but we do have a 5. So we can cancel the 5, and this becomes a 2. because 10 divided by 5 is 2. We don't have a single x, so we know we'll have a 2x left over on the top. Let's see, x plus 4. Nope, that's going to be on top. And then looking at the bottom, we didn't cancel an x minus 6. So that's going to be left over on the bottom. When it's left over on the bottom like this, you don't need your parentheses. But you could write it with parentheses if you wanted to. You could also distribute the 2x. So it'd be 2x squared plus 8x over x minus 6. But just know this is your answer. Always GCF, then factor, then simplify. So look for your GCFs first, then factor, then simplify. Simplify should be your very last step after you've done everything else. Okay, go ahead and work on your assignment and let me know if you have any questions.